Hello, thank you for joining us this evening for the 5th Annual National Club Basketball Association League Meeting. I'm Sandy Sanderson, President of the NCBBA, and we certainly appreciate you joining us tonight for this informative meeting. In case you can't tune in for the whole thing, it will be recorded, and obviously you'll miss the live segment, but it'll be able to be rewatched and downloaded from Facebook and Ustream after the meeting is adjourned. So without further ado, let's get started. We're the National Club Basketball Association, headquartered here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Our contact information is on the screen there. Hopefully you're following along with the slides that have also been posted to social media that you can download and follow along with as well. We're going to have a period here where you'll have an opportunity to chime in, ask questions, add comments. Please, when you do so, just mention who you are and what team you're with, and they'll be read aloud and discussed. So let's get started with our agenda for tonight. First, we're going to talk about what is Cole Club Sports. We're going to introduce you to the NCBBA staff. We'll look at 2018 as a year in review, look at 2019, what's to come. We'll get into our sponsors and fundraising portion of our presentation, and then we'll get into our voting ballot and league issues procedures. Then we'll close out. We'll go over the final timetable for mapping the next 18-19 season, and then we'll close out. So enjoy the ride for the next couple hours, and hopefully you find this informative. All right, what is Cole Club Sports? Many of you out there probably hear us say National Club Basketball Association, a division of Cole Club Sports. Cole Club Sports is our parent organization. Cole Club Sports is our acronym, our nickname for our main entity, which is the National Federation of Collegiate Club Sports Leagues. We were started back in 2000 with the National Club Baseball Association, which grew from 34 teams to now 308 teams in that league, including Divisions 1, 2, and now a Division 3 that we just launched this season. Next came the National Club Softball Association in 2006, began with 33 teams, now up to 132. Followed by National Club Football Association in 2009, which started with 16 teams, now is up to 26. And then the NCBBA, National Club Basketball Association, our newest organization, founded in 2013 with 28 teams, and just this past year we eclipsed the 100 mark, reaching 101. You know, the mission of Cole Club Sports is we're a compilation of governing bodies that oversee collegiate club athletics. We're driven to provide collegiate student athletes with the opportunity to participate in competitive, organized collegiate club athletic leagues and to continue to enhance that experience for all participants. We strive to accomplish this by building lasting relationships based upon trust, commitment, dedication, understanding, and strong lines of communication. We bold that strong lines of communication because we need you to communicate just as much as we need to communicate with you. We need to know where we can improve, where we're faltering, where we're doing well, what's a value add, and where things can be changed for future improvements. At the same time, if there's problems going on throughout the league, difficulties you're experiencing with your organization, we're not mind readers. We need you to communicate that to us so that we can work with you to improve it, because we want you to have the best experience possible, and we're here to help. All right, so let's meet the NCBBA staff from a front office perspective. Again, I'm Sandy Sanderson, President. Sandy Sanderson, Sr. My father is our treasurer. Jeannie Kratchula is our accounting specialist. Some of you may have more interaction with her on the financial end when it comes to receiving invoices, things like that for annual dues. Joe Schaefer is our Wilson Sponsor Account Manager. Our Sports Information Director is Rachel Weber. She's also our Phenom Elite Sponsor Account Manager. Rawlings Sponsor Account Manager is Paul Williams. The Game Headwear Sponsor Account Manager is Felicia Battaglia. Fundraising Sponsor Account Manager Tracy Reardon, and our Travel Sponsor Account Manager Alex Kane. Those are the staff members that are located here at our headquarters. And many of them you'll meet later during our fundraising sponsor portion, where they'll talk about some of the benefits afforded to you through league membership. From the other staff members, from a conference coordinator side of things, these are the people that you interact with on a very daily or weekly basis, especially during the season. From the New England region, Rachel Weber oversees those teams. North Atlantic, Robert Montgomery. He's a volunteer with us, former president and founder of Eastern Kentucky's club basketball program. Paul Williams oversees the Mid-Atlantic region. Joe Schaefer oversees the South Atlantic. Scott Chema oversees the Great Lakes. Now, Scott Chema is a volunteer with us. He is the former president of Purdue's club basketball program and led them to the 2017 national title, and then came on board, wanted to volunteer his time to help us as well. Mid-America Regional Director is Ken Thorne, a volunteer, he's a basketball enthusiast, also former club baseball president at Southern Illinois Carbondale. And then our Southern Pacific Regional Director is Zach Ramirez. Zach is a volunteer with us as well. He basically an intern. He did an internship with us this past year out of Grand Canyon University, where he also played club basketball, and he reached out wanting to get involved for internship purposes, and we appreciated having him on staff as well this year. All right, so 18, a year in review. Let's get into what we're going to talk about, what happened through 18. One of the biggest things in 2018 was the addition of the Southern Pacific region. The 17-18 season was the inaugural season of having a West Coast presence. In our first 4 years in existence, we hadn't grown on big presence on the East Coast. We hadn't reached to the West Coast yet. 17-18 was the first year we were able to do that, and I think we did it with very big numbers. I was very pleased that we were able to create 3 Southern Pacific conferences, a North, South, and East, 15 teams in total, 5 per conference. And then Arizona State, the Sun Devils, congratulations to them. They won the SOPAC regional title and the chance to go to the national championship. So they'll go down in history as the first ever NCBBA SOPAC regional champions. From growth standpoint, this past year, as I mentioned, we had 101 teams in the league. That's 99 of them were active, 2 were inactive. By that, I mean there were two of the 101 didn't play a single game all season. Obviously, we want all our members to play all their games, but as you can see, it's it doesn't always work out that way. The nature with club sports, sometimes programs have ambitions to get started and fall to the wayside. But having only 2% of our teams inactive, that's a pretty pleasing number. Always we strive for 100% participation from our members. As you can see over the years, that number is down, that percentage is down. So our goal for 2018-19 is to be at 125 member teams, with all 125 being active clubs. In terms of rules for 2018. The way our 2018 rule book was formulated was basically we took the 2017 rule book. We had this meeting. We discussed some changes, some various proposed rule changes, debated those, and then the member teams got to vote on it. Every member team gets a vote, gets 1 vote per team, and then the majority rules. So 51% of the teams approve a rule change, it gets written into the new rule book. And that's how the 18 rules were created. Some major rule changes that went into place for the 2018-19 season. Jersey numbers. Basically, it was proposed and approved to remove the NCAA jersey number rule, which limits what numbers players can wear, and instead we adopted any single or double-digit number is legal for uniform wear in the NCBBA, more of a NBA-type rule. We changed the roster removal criteria. For those that don't know, we were a 15-person roster max. At the end of winter break, when the teams come back to school in January, there's a window, a week period, where they can drop up to 3 players from the roster in order to create space to add more to get back up to 15. There's criteria to make players eligible to be removed, such as graduation. They've graduated, they left the school, they've transferred to another school, they're studying abroad for the spring. One of the new criteria that was proposed and voted upon to put into place this past year was that if a student falls below the academic criteria, the 2.0 GPA, which is the limit to be eligible to play in the league, they could be removed from the roster for that purpose as well. Another major rule change that went into place for the this past season, regional playoffs. In the past, regions that were comprised of just 2 conferences. For example, the North Atlantic was a North and a South this year. 2 years ago, that regional would have been the winner of the North and the winner of the South in a 3-game best of 3 series to see who wins the regional title. What was voted upon and approved is that In that situation where a region is only comprised of 2 divisions, the top 2 teams get to go to the regionals. So it becomes a 4-team single elimination playoff regional, and that was put into place. We also determined that for any region that is comprised of only 1 conference, we didn't happen to have any this past year because the growth of the SOPAC was big enough that we actually ended up with 3 conferences in the SOPAC. But any region that is comprised of only 1 conference, their regional would consist of the number 2 team in the conference versus the number 1 team in the conference in a best-of-3 series. The goal here being that we wanted to create an environment where finishing second in your conference gives you a shot to get to the postseason. All right, the 2018 regular season, how that worked. We had 7 regions, totaling 17 conferences. You can see there on the board, which ones were comprised of 3 conferences per region. Some were comprised of 2 conferences per region. Each team played each conference opponent in a best-of-3 series. Roughly half the games are home, half of them are away. So on average, teams are looking at about 3 road weekends, 3 home weekends, with 3 games played each weekend. When that schedule was released, teams were invited and encouraged to add to their schedule what we call non-conference games. These games are, while they count, they follow NCBBA rules. We put them on the schedule. We track the stats. We track the scores of those games. They count towards your overall record. They could affect your ranking. They do not affect your ability to make the postseason. So teams are welcome to schedule as many or as few non-conference games as they want. On average, teams play 15 conference games on average. Some teams, that's enough basketball for them regular season. Some want to play more. They're certainly welcome to add to their schedule with those non-conference games. So during the regular season, every Monday night, teams were requested or supposed to complete a weekly team submission form, a simple Word document that basically says, hey, this past week we played these teams. Here's the scores of the games. Here's who we nominate as our player of the week. This guy had an excellent week doing so many points per game, so many rebounds, etc. And that is submitted to the NCBBA every Monday night. We need some improvement with this. We need quicker reporting of scores. It's important to us that we get the website updated. We're not there. We're not in the gym when you play your conference games or your non-conference games, so we can't just know what your scores are without you telling us. This is the means by which we use for you to report your scores and to nominate your players of the week. We want to get this information, these accolades, onto the website as quickly as possible. We want your guys to get noticed for things they've done well, and it goes a long way to bolstering your program. You might not realize it, but as we're changing the culture of club basketball, bringing it more to a collegiate basketball aspect, trying to get away from the old stigma that club is IM. There's more people watching. There's more people paying attention. We get emails constantly from kids and parents, really parents in high school, that's saying, hey, my kid wants to go to this school. He's not a Division I basketball player. Can you tell me about the club program? Is that a good club program? He wants to play basketball in college. Is this a reputable school for him to get a great club experience? So we need that information up there. It's important for the success and growth of the league. One of the things we recommend is that you delegate a rookie to handling this communication with the league. It's very easy for a guy, if he knows it's his job, to just, hey, the game ended, write the score down real quick on a notepad and send it to the NCBBA on Monday. So with that said, every Monday night we're supposed to get the scores reported to us by the teams and the player of the weeks. Every Tuesday, our conference coordinators, the first thing they do when they open their computers on Tuesday, they expect to have an inbox full of scores that they can go in and populate the website with all the updated scores, select the conference players of the week, and get those guys posted to the website so they can get their honors. And then every Wednesday, we go through all the conference player of the weeks and pick the best we find. We find the 2 best guys who had the 2 best performances at the conference level, and they become our National Players of the Week award winners. And here you'll find a list of this year's all our National Player of the Week award winners. Congratulations to all of them. for having phenomenal weeks, but also to their team reps who have done their due diligence in getting their players nominated and making sure that their accomplishments don't go unnoticed. And a lot of this, not only does it look good for the teams to say, oh, this team keeps having guys player of the week. When it comes time to postseason awards, All-Americans, things like that, it's a resume builder. When we're looking between this guy and this guy, this guy was player of the week 3 times, maybe might give him the nudge to get him a national award at the end of the season. Now, from the regional playoff side of things, the New England, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Southern Pacific were all 3 directional conference regions. So each directional winner, for example, the North, the East, the South, all 3 winners automatically go to the regional playoffs. In these three directional conference regions, a 4th team is selected. We call it an at-large bid. We look at the 3 second-place teams, and we select one to be the 4th team into that regional playoff. We often look at things like how did they do in conference play against their regional winner. Did the team forfeit any games? Is the team on probation at all? Are they basically been model NCBBA citizens? Have they done good things throughout the year? It might even be that there's a big buzz because they keep getting players of the week. So, that all these criteria go into our committee's mind when we're picking our at-large bids for regional playoffs. So, in the regional playoffs, 4 teams, single elimination. We do put a consolation game on for the 2 first-round losers that didn't win opening day, so that their travel, they get a second game in. In the North Atlantic, South Atlantic, Great Lakes, and Mid-America, these regions were split into just 2 conferences. So in these areas, the first and second place teams from both conferences automatically got into the playoffs. And the highest ranked conference winner in each region got to host the regional playoff. For example, in New England, Harvard was the highest ranked of the 3 divisional winners. So Harvard got to host the regional playoffs. This was all decided, based on previous meetings and how this format would go down. And so the winners of these regional playoffs get automatic bids to the national championship, and they also got regional champion trophies. So there you go. There's our regional winners. Harvard in New England, North Atlantic, Ithaca, Mid-Atlantic was Princeton, South Atlantic was East Carolina, Great Lakes, Michigan, Mid-America was Indiana, and the Southern Pacific was Arizona State. Southern Arizona State being the only at-large bid to regionals that actually won their regional and got to move on to the national championship. Let's talk about the Rawlings Top 20 poll. Many of you may have followed along with that throughout the season. Basically, every other week, prior to the start of the season, what we do is we send out a team preview form. It's a simple questionnaire for every team to fill out. It's like a hype sheet. It's something that you can fill out and talk about, hey, this is how our team did last year. We were 18-3, finished second in the conference, did this, did that, maybe had some award winners. Here's how we're looking for the 18-19 season. We've got 6 returning seniors. We got these starters coming back. We've picked up these freshmen. Maybe this guy transferred in. We think he's going to be an impact player. It's an opportunity to hype your team to the public because really, ESPN's not covering you, so we don't know much about your program other than what you can give us. We use this information to promote all the teams in the league during the preseason, as well as to influence or educate the voters on how all the teams, at least how the teams feel they're going to look coming into the next season. Now, we've got this voting panel that we comprise of 20 past NCBBA coaches. Some are current NCBBA coaches, some NCBBA staff members, select alumni that we've worked with over the years, and we create this panel. They get to create their top 20 list. We give them the, here's the 101 teams in the league. Give us your top 20. And so each one of these panel members gets a vote. First place voter is worth 20 points. Second place vote's worth 19, etc. Down the line, a 20th place vote is worth 1 point. So as you see, all these points add up, and that's how we determine the top 20. So this preseason poll was released, right before the start of the season. During the season, every 2 weeks, after scores are submitted each Monday, the panel votes again after the season starts. So every other Wednesday, they cast a new ballot. So every other Thursday, a new top 20 gets released. Now, the top 20 is mainly for fun, excitement, get people hyped up, get people excited about, hey, number 1 versus number 7 this week should be a good matchup. Where it does, nuts and bolts count at this point right now is at the end of the season, if you're ranked high enough, you get to host your regional playoffs, which is a benefit because obviously there's, no travel involved if you're hosting at your home court. Plus, you got home court advantage. Where also these polls matter is at the national championship tournament. The 8 teams, where they're ranked going into the national championship, their ranking weighs in 25% in the seeding equation we use to put together the field for the Final 8 championship. And here's just a copy of the final top 20 poll after the national championship. As you can see, out of total of 360 points available, Ohio State received 359 of them, winning our national championship and so on. And you can see there where the top 20 laid out. All right, our 2018 national championship tournament. This year it featured 7 regional champions. As you heard me talk about before, the regular season was 7 regions. So that's 7 teams. It's an 8-team tournament. 7 teams received automatic bids by winning their regional. We selected 1 at-large bid. That at-large bid ended up being Ohio State. The committee got together after regionals weekend and nearly unanimously selected Ohio State, and feeling that they were most worthy of the bid. And they certainly took that second chance opportunity and ran with it as they went on to win the national title. In previous years, for example, last year, we only had 6 regions before the SOPAC. So it was 6 automatic qualifiers and 2 at-large bids. Moving forward in the future, we expect to be at 8 regions, just like we are in our other sports, where there won't be at-large bids to the national championship anymore. So the winning at the regional level will be, the make or break point to get to the national championship. This past year, April 6th through the 8th, it was held at Indiana University, South Bend, and obviously in South Bend, Indiana. Again, it was a single elimination 8-team tournament as usual. We featured the skills competition on Saturday, our all-star game. We featured online play-by-play of all the games and online live stats for all the games as well. Some new enhancements we brought for 2018 to this. We provided athletic trainers. It was something that the teams and us had talked about previous years. In 2017, the teams dictated that what was more important to them was to actually have the games officiated by 3 refs at a time. So that was our 17 upgrade, was to go to a 3-man officiating crew for each game, which we obviously held through to 2018. But this year we were able to add athletic trainers into the mix as well. This new enhancements featured warm-up facilities at the court. So while games were going on, there were 2 separate courts available, auxiliary space for teams for the next game where they could do their stretches, their warm-ups, get a good shoot-around in before the court became available for their pregame. We also provided practice and warm-up balls this year. It was something we hadn't done in the past. Previously, we had told teams, hey, bring your own warm-up balls. We'll provide the game balls. Some things we've noticed in the past with basketballs being inflatable, they don't do well on airplanes. So some of the teams have had trouble that were flying into the national championship. It became kind of a hassle for them to bring their practice balls with them. So we just invested in more balls to create enough of a supply that the teams coming don't need to worry about warm-up or practice balls. Just show up. We've got everything you need to prepare for the games and play the games. And then finally, our travel assistance. One of the things we take pride of in our organization throughout all our leagues is we provide travel assistance to the teams that make the national championship. As the league grows, the pool of money that we can put aside for those teams that qualify for the national championship grows as well. For example, 2017, we were able to give out a little bit over $3,000. This year, over $5,000. So we're very proud that we were able to increase that amount of travel stipend we were able to distribute to the teams that had this amazing season, were able to qualify for the national championship. We hope to be able to continue to grow that pool of money as the NCBBA continues to grow as well. And as I mentioned, our 2018 national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now let's talk a little bit about why IU South Bend was selected. Basically, as with everything we do, we take the input of our teams very seriously. That's the point of this meeting. One of the things we've done in the past is had the teams give us a priority list. What's most important to you when we pick a national championship venue? We do this for all of our leagues, and it's different for all of our leagues. What's important to football teams is different than what's important to basketball teams, than what's important to baseball teams. But what the basketball teams have told us is tournament location, the fact that it be centrally located throughout the league. That's the first priority. And we graded South Bend, Indiana as a B+ in that category. The true center of the NCBBA this past season was in Western Ohio. We searched Western Ohio. We're not able to find facilities that were available during the specific weekend we wanted. So we had to drift a little bit west into Indiana, and we settled upon South Bend. But we really loved it there. But we scored it a B+ in the location category. Preferred tournament weekend, that early to mid-April. South Bend scored an A in that category. They were able to get us the second weekend of April. The tournament venue being a small college arena. We scored it an A-. It is a small college arena, more of a gymnasium than what I'd call an arena, but we still feel the atmosphere of it as well. Hard court surface, absolutely IUSB accommodated there, A+. Championship game time, being able to have the title game scheduled in the early afternoon. I believe we had a noon tip-off. The reason the teams decided they wanted to do that is on Sunday, they want to be able to sort of end earlier in the day and get on the road back to their campuses. So that scored an A+. And then the venue having on-site locker rooms, definitely an A+ there with South Bend, with access to plenty of locker rooms. So all our teams had a great place to leave their gear, put their stuff, pre-game, during the game, halftime, post-game, go back, have their team meetings, and so forth. As I mentioned, we had our skills competition. It's the third annual skills competition. It was hosted Saturday starting at noon in place of the consolation game 1. By that I mean a few years back we would have consolation games for the 4 teams that lost on Friday in the open round, just so they got a second game in having made this big trip. But what we found is the teams came to us and said, you know what, these games don't count for anything. They don't matter. Our season's over. We're not that into these consolation games. They're not that exciting for us. Can we do away with them? We can find something better to fill that spot. Yeah, we came this far. We played a game. We lost. We don't want to be done, but a consolation game doesn't excite us. So it was proposed and implemented to put in a skills competition, an all-star game. So this is the third year of the skills competition. Featured a 3-point shooting contest, an obstacle course, as well as a slam dunk competition. And each team that qualified for the national championship tournament was invited to put at least one contestant into each competition event. Now, teams that didn't make the national championship were also invited to enter participants into the events as well. The skills competition is not just for the teams that make the national championship. All teams in the NCBBA are welcome to place a member in. Unfortunately, this year we did not have anybody apply that wanted to participate that didn't make the national championship. And then we provide trophies for the winners of each skills event. Now, the tournament all-star game, this was held Saturday at 2:30 in place of what used to be the second consolation game. And what we do here is we draft 3 players from each of the teams that lose the opening round game. So the 4 teams that lose on Friday, we draft 3 of them to be in the all-star game. The coach from each of those teams then gets to appoint 2 more players that weren't drafted to also participate in the game. And then the NCBBA tournament staff holds a draft of these 20 players and picks teams. So often guys are on opposite all-star teams from their teammates as well. So we got Team Black, Team Orange. The NCBBA staff coaches these games, and again, it's a pretty fun event. Guys want to run the court, show off some of their skills, have some fun. They take some pride in being selected or nominated to participate in this game, and then it's proven to be a winner over the consolation games we used to host. And then again, the trophy for the All-Star MVP. All right, let's get into the All-Region All-American Awards. So teams were provided a ballot about a month ago, a ballot to nominate anybody from their team that they feel is worthy of being considered for an All-Region award or an All-American award. So there was you had the opportunity to nominate a center, 2 forwards, a point guard, and a shooting guard, and only people that were nominated even considered. So if you're a quality player out there wondering, why didn't I make the All-Region team? I would first ask your coach or president, hey, did you nominate me? That's the first place to start there. Because we've got 100 teams, 50, that's about 1,500 athletes. We need to whittle the field down to who we need to look at for each position for awards. So, and then teams on probation, their players, because of probationary status, their players are not eligible for these kind of postseason awards. So once the All-Region nomination forms came in, we picked first and second team All-Region teams for each region. They're currently being released as we speak. I believe today we released the Mid-America All-Region team, and tomorrow the Southern Pacific All-Region team will get released as well. They've been selected. We like to slow play how we announce them, just so everybody kind of each region gets their own day in the sun. So tomorrow will be the last one with the SOPAC All-Region team being released. And then we will select an All-American team based on the All-Region winners. We'll select the first, second, and third team for all those positions as well. And we expect that to be released next Friday, the 4th. So stay tuned on social media for that release. All right. Let's talk about 2019 and what's to come. Excuse me a second. All right. New teams. All right. So we had a big year of growth last year, breaking the 100-team mark up to 101. The goal is to be at 125 by tip-off this fall. We already have 5 new teams have signed up under contract. Southern New Hampshire University, obviously in New England. Bates College, also in New England. University of Albany. Drew University, which is a Mid-Atlantic team. And Cal Miramar University, which is a Southern Pacific team. Those 5 have already signed all their paperwork, paid their fees. They're officially in for next year. We've also received verbal commitments from Mary Washington, Dickinson College, University of Michigan Flint, and Canisius College that have already said, hey, their paperwork's on the way and it's coming in. And I believe, if I saw my email correctly right before we went live, I believe Oklahoma Baptist has officially joined as well. I think their paperwork is in my email as we speak. So hopefully we'll be making that announcement tomorrow over all the social media sites. Now, those are 5 teams that have joined, another 4 that have verbally committed to join. We've got a ton of teams that we're in communication with that have expressed interest in coming on board for next year. Some of these teams are in the state of becoming clubs, getting approval as student organizations on campus. But as you can see, there's a bunch right there, and we hope to break into some new regions for this fall. Now, conference realignment. These new teams coming on board have till August 1st to officially sign on. That's the deadline for new teams to come on board. We've got an early registration period that's going on right now that ends May 1st, where teams can get some benefits if they sign on early. But for the most part, they all have till August 1st to sign on. Once August 1st hits and we know who's in, we will go into what we call our conference realignment period. That's where we basically we stick a pin in the map for every team in the league and start breaking people up geographically in order to minimize travel. So it's quite possible, on the East Coast, things generally stay similar, the same. Teams are bunched in pockets to help minimize travel. As we get sort of into the Midwest, things get spread out. So the more teams we add, the more we're able to subdivide, and which is great because it ends up reducing travel because it ends up bunching teams together closer together. One of our big things we hope to accomplish this year is to either create a Gulf Coast or a Northern Pacific region. We've got a couple teams up in the Northern Pacific. That's the Idaho, Montana, Oregon, Washington area that have club teams. Several of them are very interested in joining. Several wanted to join last year. We couldn't get enough of them to commit to create a region up there yet. And the other is the Gulf Coast. We know of about 20 teams in the Gulf Coast area, the Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma area, that we're just trying to get them on board to create a region there as well. It's highly likely that the Great Lakes, the South Atlantic, and North Atlantic, those are three regions this past year that were comprised of only two directional divisions or two directional conferences. It's highly likely that those three will have three directional conferences for the 18-19 season. Conference scheduling. Conference schedule request forms are due September 1st. It's important not to be late. It's important because it can impact you negatively. It can impact the teams in your conference negatively if we don't have your schedule request forms. Our goal, what the teams have asked for, is like to have their conference schedules released by September 15th. In order to do that, we need all the schedule request forms on September 1st. The schedule request form is pretty simple in that it breaks the season down by weekends, and you simply tell us your availability. You tell us, hey, here's a weekend that we can't play, and here's why. Maybe we're going to play in another tournament. Someone's hosting a tournament, or maybe we're hosting a tournament. We don't want to play conference games that weekend. Please don't schedule us. Maybe it's fall break. Maybe it's winter break. Maybe it's spring break. These are reasons that you need off. Hey, we don't have a court available this weekend. We can only play away. Put that on your schedule request form. Hey, we've got the varsity gym available this weekend. We really want to play at home so we can play in the varsity gym. Put that on your schedule request form. We're looking for your availability. We need to know when you want to be home, when you want to be off, when you have to be away, or when it doesn't matter. We just need you to communicate that and be accurate with it. Too many times the teams will say, hey, okay, we need this weekend and this weekend off for spring break. If you tell us, we're not going to schedule you. If you tell us these 2 weekends are a spring break, we're not going to set you up for disaster. We're not going to schedule you basketball games those weekends. We know your guys are going to be away. If you tell us the wrong weekends, it's on you now. Now you are scheduled on, you might be scheduled on your spring break because you gave us the wrong weekends to call off. So be accurate when you fill out your schedule request form. If it's not in by September 1st, we're left with two options. One, create the conference schedule without your input, which you're not going to be happy with, trust me. Two, releasing the conference schedule, which every team in your conference is not going to be happy with you yet either. They're not going to be happy with us, and they're going to turn around and say, hey, they didn't get it in on time. Let's go, Sandy, release our schedule because we want to get things going. Oh, we got our first question.
We've got Trey Anderson, school unknown. He wants to know if they'll be able to eliminate deadlines for roster elimination. I'm assuming he means like taking guys off the roster, things like that.
Eliminate. Okay, Trey, is it Trey Anderson? We're going to get to a section here in a little bit where we talk about rule changes and things like that, and that'll be a great time to discuss that item. All right, so back to the schedule request forms. So we're looking for availability first. The next slide down, which if you're following along at home, you can take a look at it. This is a sample schedule request form and how ideally you'd want it to look. You're letting us know why, when you need off. That's our favorite part. When you can say, hey, we can play home or away, it doesn't matter. That gives us the most flexibility. If there's 7 teams in your conference, which means you got 6 conference weekends of games, please don't give us a schedule request form that only has 6 weekends open. The chances are that we can't get all 6 of those weekends exactly that way. Because don't forget, we got to look at the availability of the other opponents in your conference. Once we release the conference schedules on September 15th, that's when we encourage you to start adding non-conference games to your schedule, and report them to us. Hey, we're going to a tournament here. Hey, this team has an open weekend. If you want help, we've got the contact information for everybody in the league. Hey, third weekend in February, we don't have any games scheduled. Neither does this team. Let's see if they want to hook up and play some basketball, some non-conference basketball. Report those games to your conference coordinator as soon as you schedule them, so we can put them on the conference website, on the schedule on the website. We get a lot of parents that contact us. When is their next game? It looks to me like they don't play for 3 weeks. My son says that they're playing this weekend. We need you to give us that information so we can keep the website up to date. So. We put a couple on this sample schedule request form, which this will come out with the blank schedule request form. We send this out as well. This will come out in probably about August 1st. We'll send this out. So the teams have a month to work on it before the September 1st deadline. We list some things to take into account here, like remember spring break, remember Thanksgiving weekend. You probably don't want to play. Winter break, finals. Finals is something. Some teams say they can't play it during finals. Some teams say we can play. We can only play at home, though. Absolutely makes sense. Put that on your schedule request form. We're very good. I'll tell you, we're very good at creating conference schedules that meet 99% of everybody's schedule request form. If you don't send it or send it inaccurately, we can't help you there. All right, regional championships. Again, as the league grows, eventually the entire league will be comprised of 8 regions with multiple directional conferences following regional championships. Of course, the winners of the regional championship tournaments will automatically move on to the national championship tournament. And our ultimate goal, we want to get to 8 regions, 3 conferences per region with 6 to 7 teams per conference. Once we hit that point, that's what we would call like our saturation period. That's when we start looking at, okay, we've got more teams than where we comfortably want to be at on a competitive level. Now it's time to start NCBBA Division II. Again, regional tournaments will be held in a single elimination format with a consolation game, and they're always held 2 weeks before the national championship. Our 2019 national championship location has not been determined yet, but starting in July, we'll have a better idea of where the center point is of the entire league for the 18-19 season, and we'll start looking at potential host venues in cities. Our goal is to secure that venue that meets the expectations and exceeds the expectations of our teams. For those teams that have never been to one of our national championships, we treat it like an NCAA event. It's not IM basketball. If you think this is IM basketball, you're sorely mistaken and hopefully pleasantly mistaken. Our teams, we had a very unique experience this past year at the national championship where 6 of the 8 teams had never been to the national championship before. And they walked in, and when they found out a locker room with their name on it, and this is their spot, and this is their home, and this is where they go at halftime to regroup and game plan for how they want to come back or hold them off in half. The fact that there's press conferences afterwards and coaches interviews and a broadcast and halftime entertainment and ID checks, making sure that everybody that steps foot on that court is on the roster. We take it very seriously because you put in a lot of work to have your experience. And when you have had such a great season that you get to this national championship opportunity, we want to make it special for you and something that you guys will remember always. So that's what we look for in a venue. We encourage teams to, if you know of a place that you think would be a good idea, throw it out to us. Obviously, this past year, Western Ohio, Indiana was kind of the central hub of the league. We'll see how we grow with hopefully getting into Texas and the Pacific Northwest, where that takes our center point to. But we're all suggestions if you've got something good in mind that you know of, maybe a diamond in the rough that's not on our radar, let us know. We're certainly going to look at IUSB. We had a great experience this past year there. We'll definitely look at them as an option when we consider where we're going to take this event. One of the things, get to our search criteria. Tournament location is our first priority. The particular weekend is our second priority. The type of venue is our third priority, etc. This is the priority list that you've given us. My question for you right now is, do you like this priority? Is this the order you want us to continue to look for venues? And chime in right now if you think there's something else that's better. An example is in our club baseball league. For years, our teams, their highest priority is they wanted it to be a destination venue. Wanted it to be somewhere when they're not playing baseball, there's lots of fun things to do. Like the beach, for years it was always held at a beach destination because that's where they wanted to go. So that when they weren't at the ball field, they were out at the beach doing surf things, beach bar, playing in the ocean, whatnot. There were also periods of years where the team told us what was most important to them is playing in a major league venue. We spent, probably 5, 6, 7 years where we played in a Major League Baseball spring training venue. In part because it was that atmosphere that they wanted, a 20,000 seat stadium that only had a couple hundred people in it, but it was the fact that they were playing ball on the same field that Manny Ramirez played at, the same field that so-and-so played at when they were professional ball players. That was important to them. So what matters to us is what's important to you as basketball. And do we have anybody chiming in on suggestions of something different? Okay. What do we got, Alex?
Trey Anderson again, still school unknown. Is there a possibility to rotate venues, giving each an opportunity to host?
That's certainly a possibility if that's what the teams want. It would need to be, approved by the teams to basically create a new priority list, to the central location out of the mix. But if that's what the teams want, is there anybody out there seconding his opinion on that idea? Well, one of the things we can do is, do a survey just to get a grasp from the teams to see if anybody else would support this. So let's jot that down as an action. Survey the teams on the idea of a rotational national championship, basically bouncing region to region. We'd all obviously have to create some sort of pattern by which we'd cycle around the country to. Obviously, clearly that would throw the central location out the window because, 1 year you're in New England, 1 year you're in, the Southern Pacific. But it's something we can talk to the teams and get to gauge their opinion on. Any other comments on this national championship list? All right, let's move on. So some of our improvement goals for the 19 national championship, one of the things we want to do is we want to develop a fourth skills competition event. Skills competition has become an awesome event. It's become a lot of fun. I like the guys. One of my favorite parts about it is while it's a competition, everybody is in favor of the guy that's participating at that moment. We'll get a couple hundred people there, a couple hundred other athletes cheering on the one guy that's shooting three-pointers. When he does something awesome, the place erupts. Everybody wants every other athlete to do well. So it's become a great event. We'd like to find a fourth skill competition add to it. So feel free to send us suggestions on a fourth skills competition event. We'd like to get more non-championship participating teams to participate in the skills competition, especially when you're in a situation like, we were in Indiana. There were a lot of schools within a 2-hour drive. 2-hour drive of South Bend. We would have loved for them to have some of their players come up and participate in the event. We want to further develop relationships with local businesses to come on board as local sponsors. One of the things that with basketball, It's a little different than our baseball. Our baseball national championship is 7 days long. This basketball one is 3 days long. There's a lot of downtime on the baseball side. A lot of times that people are, the baseball teams are sitting around looking, what are we going to do? Sandy, where's a good restaurant for us to go to? Where can we get deals? Things like that. With the basketball, teams aren't really in town all that much, but with those relationships with the local business where they can come on board as sponsors. Once we do that, we can get some deals in place for the teams like, hey, at post game, take the team out here to eat, get a discount. Hey, we've got some more money in the pocket. We can expand that travel stipend budget as well. So that's that leads right into that other goal is, to increase that travel stipend money for each participating team. And a lot of that comes from two forms. One, more teams in the league. Two, getting those local championship sponsors on board. Another thing we'd like to do is create an advertising budget for the national championship so that we can begin publicizing this event to the local public. If we can find the right venue in the right city where our event becomes a social draw or an entertainment draw to that community, it could be beneficial for getting more spectators in the stands. This is something that's changed. With baseball, they used to want to be at the beach. They used to want to be in a pro stadium. That culture changed about 6 years ago, where they now said, you know what our priority is? We want to play in front of fans, not necessarily our fans, but anybody. We want to play in front of a crowd, and so now we only target small towns where our event coming to that town is a draw, where little league kids want to come out and watch these guys play. They want to get the autographs. They want to see what's going on. Families bring their whole parents bring the whole family out to the ballpark because it's an entertaining thing to do in that town that particular week. So we'd like to eventually get to a point where we can start drawing local attendance for the basketball championship. All right. Well, we're going to move on to our sponsors and fundraising portion of the presentation. I'm going to step away for a few minutes, and I'm going to invite Tracy up, and she's going to get us started.
Well, short people here. As Sandy said, I am one of the sponsor account managers, and I am the fundraiser sponsor account manager. Fundraiser is the official fundraiser platform NCBBA. It is a fundraising platform for all of your team's budgetary needs. You can start a campaign online completely free of charge, and you can share it on Facebook, Twitter, any of your team websites, and via email to reach more of your potential donors. You can invite players within your fundraiser on their personal accounts and make it a friendly competition within your own team. All you need are an email address and a verified PayPal account to get started. My email is listed in the slide, so if you've got any questions about fundraiser or how to use it, you can contact me at any time. Florida actually came up with a fun new way to use fundraiser over the summer. They created individual sub-campaigns for each player. Each player's campaign was also tied to a master campaign to tally up all the donations as an overall group as well. It's a great way to hold players responsible as well as start some friends in the team. And Harvard, one of the teams who went to the championship, they actually raised more than their goal amount of $6,000. They raised $6,500 in, I think it was about a week or so after they found out that they would be going to the championship. So clearly they were able to on this platform because they promoted it on all of their social media accounts. And I will be handing everything over to Alex Kane, who is our travel sponsor.
Thank you, Trace. She mentioned my name's Alex. I am the travel sponsor account manager. Go ahead and talk to you guys a little bit about our Avis and Motel 6 sponsorships. First up, we have Motel 6. They are the official lodging partner of the NCBBA. It's great because you guys can use this for anything that's personally related or NCBBA related. So you can use it year-round, and you guys will get 10% discount on the rate. Booking's extremely easy. You guys can go through the booking portal that's on the NCBBA website, or you guys can call a Motel 6 representative at the 1-800 number. Just be sure to give them our corporate ID number, which is in bold here on the screen. So it's very simple, but obviously if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Next up, we do have Avis, who is a preferred van and car rental agency of the NCBBA. You guys get discounts on basically all the vehicles, anything from 12-passenger vans to anything like a compact car. Rental availability is for players that are 18 and older. It's really great as well because they waive the under 25 fee, which a lot of the times can be just as expensive itself. So right off the bat, you guys are going to be saving a bunch of money with that. Booking with this, again, is pretty easy. You can go right to avis.com and book your car through there. Just be sure to use our coupon code of D712300, also seen in bold on the screen, or you can go ahead and call a local agency or their 1-800 number, our discount code. Also with Avis, we encourage you guys to sign up for the Avis Preferred program. With this, in addition to the benefits that you get on behalf of the NCBBA, you can sign up for this program on a personal side and accumulate points for each rental, which you can then later use after you accumulate rental days for further trips throughout the year. So it's a good idea to go ahead and take a look at it. If you're interested in signing up, visit the link down here in our slide. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. Next up, we'll talk to you guys a little bit about the game, who's the official headwear sponsor of the NCBBA. Felicia couldn't join us today, so I will go ahead and give products they have to offer. Like I said, they are the official headwear sponsor of the NCBBA. They have great product offerings, anything from beanies, boonies, visors, pretty much anything you can think of. Got a couple things here for you today. An old national championship hat for baseball and a boonie that we've been using the last couple years at spring training. Sell like hotcakes. It's a great idea for you guys to look into that. Get a color that matches your team's color scheme and go ahead and throw either the NCBBA logo or your team logo on there. You guys are good to go. It's also a good idea to do anything, the hat fundraising. You can sell team merch, fans, family, friends, and use it as a fundraiser, to sponsor some of your trips later on in the season. With the game, they offer very low pricing and customizations on just about any product they offer. They do offer early discounts. Not entirely sure what they are at this point. That's why you'd have to contact them. They do offer free NCBA Shield included on any of the products that they offer. So if you guys are interested whatsoever, don't hesitate to reach out to Felicia. She'll be happy to help you guys out. Next up, we'll go ahead and bring up Joe Schaefer, talk to you guys a little bit about our Wilson sponsor.
All right, guys. I'm Joe Schaefer. I'm the Wilson sponsor account manager for the NCBBA, basically in charge of getting you your basketballs. So Wilson is the official basketball of the NCBBA. This basketball right here is a game ball. It is the WTB ball. Each team will receive 3 of these free of charge before your first game. Each basketball will have this decal on there. It's tough to see. It's the NCBBA Shield. And everyone will receive 3 of these for your season, free of charge. You guys will get equipment forms sometime here in the season. These basketballs. On the equipment form, it's going to include, you need to include your institution name, the name that's going to go on the order, address, city, state, zip code. Recommendation would be to use an on-campus address just to make things easier in regards to shipping and handling. If you do use an off-campus address, please include numbers, suites, anything that goes along with your address to avoid any complications. You guys are also open to get additional game basketballs with the NCBBA logo on there. You are also eligible to get Wilson Evolution WTB 0516 practice ball. Receive exclusive pricing on both of those. Feel free to contact me anytime if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Contact information is on this PowerPoint. It's also on the website. Okay, now we're going to transition to Rachel Weber. She's going to talk to you guys about Phenom Elite.
Hey guys, like Joe said, my name is Rachel Weber. I'm the Phenom Elite Sponsor Account Manager here at the NCBBA. Phenom Elite is the official uniform sponsor of the NCBBA, and I actually have a great example coming up. Our rookie here, Garrett, is wearing a Fast Break jersey. Creighton University, this is after your logo. So this is a Fast Break Phenom Elite does have 5 styles ranging from loose to form-fitting. Member NCBBA teams can take advantage of a 50% on stock and custom orders. To get your order started today, please contact Nathan Dorton directly at Phenom Elite at nathandorton@phenomelite.com. Again, great, awesome uniforms. You can also get the NCBBA crest shield on it automatically. So we're really excited about this partnership. Contact Nathan Dorton directly to get your order started. Up next is Paul Williams.
Hey, like Rachel said, my name is Paul Williams. I'm the Rawlings sponsor account manager. Rawlings is the official performance apparel supplier of the NCBBA. My contact information is right there for you. My job is to pretty much bring you some team apparel. NCBBA teams will receive 45% off the catalog prices year-round. It's an awesome deal. It's definitely worth reaching out. These items would include performance shirts and shorts, compression shirts and shorts, sweatshirts, polos, jackets. A couple of samples for you here. You know, you get your shorts, you get like some warm-up type gear. You know, it's great team gear. Please, contact me if you have any questions. I can get you a quote. That's it for the sponsor accounts. We'll bring Sandy back up and get back into it.
Thank you, Paul. Everybody, appreciate you taking the time to hear out our marketing department and what sponsors are afforded to you. We hope you'll take them seriously. Look at where you've got options there. Everybody needs uniforms of some type. Phenom Elite's a great option. We got Rawlings for the apparel. Our sponsors are important. We're trying to help you raise money for your team. We're trying to help how you spend your money to get you savings, whether it be renting a van for a weekend trip, getting some hotel rooms, or getting new gear for the team. Our sponsors are important. They help us. Not only are they giving you a benefit, they're giving the league a benefit here by being partnered with us. More sponsors, more involvement we can get from them, the less we have to charge you guys in league dues. So it helps us keep the league dues down to a minimum. All right, so we're through halfway through the meeting. We've gotten through the history, the future, voting ballot procedures. We're going to address some issues one at a time and create an open forum to talk about these. I'm going to present a few issues that I'd like discussed, and then we're going to open it up to anything you guys want to bring up as well. We're going to create voting ballot here tonight that's going to go out to all the member teams, and every member team gets a vote. And this is what has an impact on how the league operates and how the rules are structured for next season. The first issue I'd like to bring up is the regional playoffs, specifically talking about the dates. This past year, it was March 24th to the 25th. One of the problems we had with that is that it did conflict with some teams for spring break. A few teams had problems, getting everybody back for spring break or keeping everybody there because they were leaving for spring break that weekend. I'm looking at the calendar for next year. I'd be very interested in moving the regional back to March 30th through and 31st. This would require us to move the national championship back a weekend to April 12th and 14th. We need to have that 2-week gap between regionals and the national championship because there's some heavy travel involved there, some heavy planning. So we need at least, we need that 2-week buffer window there between regionals and the national. Easter this year for 2019 is April 21st. We're operating under the complete assumption that nobody wants the national championship to be during Easter weekend. So April, and we can't go later than that because then we get into finals and graduation and we're going to have all kinds of problems there. So what we'd like to do is 30-31 and move the national championship back to April 12th through the 14th. Is there any comments on that? Anybody approve the idea of us, putting that on the ballot? Again, our goal here is to try to have a little less conflict with some teams' spring break schedules in order to have more participation at the at the regional playoffs. No comments? Nobody supports the idea of this entering into discussion on moving this stuff back? Anybody against it? Trey Anderson. Trey Anderson from Coppin State. Okay. All right. So we're going to put that on the ballot, the movement of the regional playoffs. All right. Let's look at regional playoff locations. This past year, it was the regional playoffs were hosted by the highest ranked conference divisional winner. That's who got to host it. The cons to that process, that idea, is that it wasn't known until basically 5 or 6 days before regionals took place. We had an idea of who, some of the teams clinched their conference early, so we had an idea of who might get it, but for the many instances, it wasn't until 5 days beforehand that we knew, okay, this team's in, new polls are out, they get to host the regional playoff. So the con is, there's not a lot of advanced planning as to where we might be headed for the regional playoff. Sometimes also because we were going with the highest ranked regional winner, sometimes that regional winner isn't centrally located within the region. So that team, for example, in the SOPAC, the Grand Canyon University was the highest ranked regional winner. They were very far, they were further east than any other team in the region. They were further south than any other team in the region. So they, if we were looking at the SOPAC region, Grand Canyon University in Phoenix would not have been it. But they were the highest ranked regional winner, so they got district conference divisional winner. They got to host it. So potential improvements I would like to see us looking towards for the future is to be able to secure a site in advance so that teams know where they're going. Our other sports where, hey, if you win the softball regional, this is where the softball regionals are. You might know that before first pitch of the season, where softball regionals are going to be. And additionally, looking to secure a site that is more centrally located within the region, just like we've done for the national championship. I'd be interested in a potential improvement there for the future of putting the regional playoffs in a central location. So I've got two proposed changes here. For 18-19, I'm proposing the idea that instead of the highest ranked divisional winner, that the most centrally located divisional winner gets to host regional playoffs. This would obviously help with putting that regional playoff in a more central location, but it doesn't help with that advanced travel planning because again, we're still not necessarily going to know who is the central regional winner until about 5-6 days in advance. Or is anybody in support of putting this on the ballot for the 18-19 season to at least would solve that problem of central location within the region? Anybody for it? Anybody against it? We'd love to hear. And obviously, things here are not being decided. We're just looking for support to put it on the ballot. Enough support to warrant putting it on the ballot to let the membership vote on. And we're on delay, so as I speak, it takes 15 seconds or so for you to actually hear me. So I apologize for the delay. We're just trying to give you guys a little time to catch up on what I'm saying here and comment back. Southern New Hampshire on the ballot? Okay, so we'll put that on the ballot, the idea of switching from highest ranked divisional winner to most central divisional winner hosting regional playoffs. One of the proposed changes, this is for the 1920 season. The reason this can't be put into place for 18-19 is because it does, unfortunately, the idea here would be to get more in line like what we do with baseball and softball, where the NCBBA itself hosts the regional playoffs, not necessarily one of our participating teams, where we believe if we increase dues $50 to $75, somewhere in that range, what we can do is move into a format where we host the regional playoffs in a central location where it's going to be this, it's going to be determined months in advance. Hey, this is where the 2020 Great Lakes regional playoffs are going to be. It's going to be in a central location. Everybody's going to know it well before they basically give you a target goal of, hey, we're trying to get to this tournament. Obviously, in that situation, we are handling the hosting costs to put on that event. And so we would need to raise dues, as we say, $50 to $75 in order to be able to make that happen. Both problems in that you know where you're heading, you can travel plan in advance, it would be centrally located, and so forth. Again, this would only be, does anybody out there support this? Does anybody have any comments on this idea? I think this solves the problems with the regional playoffs. And again, it wouldn't be for till the 1920 season that we could implement it, because it would require rework of the contracts and the league dues and so forth, which have already been set for next year. We have any comments on that? Again, appreciate your patience there while we deal with the delay, the little bit of a delay we were on. Again, what we're talking about here, can we put on the ballot a vote to raise dues for between $50 and $75 per team for the 1920 season, with the idea that the NCBBA would take over the hosting of the regional playoffs, putting it in a central location, having that central location and all that hosting stuff and that facilities all set up in advance, taking that burden off the teams, but it'd be done in advance, well before regional playoffs would actually occur, and it would be put in a central location to accommodate everybody in the region. We're caught up? Okay. Does anybody support this idea to put on the ballot? Do we hate it? If you don't like it, say you don't like it. So if you do support it, we just need one person to support it to be able to put it on the ballot. No action? All right, let's take an action item just to put in the survey at the end of the voting ballot to see if what kind of for 18, 19, 20, excuse me. Conference scheduling. This was an issue we had this past year. The season begins November 1st, runs through the end of March. One of the things we had was teams came to us and said, their schedule request form would say something like, "Oh, we returned from winter break and play conference games the second week of January." So we'd schedule conference games second, third, fourth week of January. And one of the things that happened was teams came back from winter break and they weren't reorganized enough to actually play those games. We had problems with teams coming back and saying, we can't get our graded enrollment forms back to you yet. We can't, the team's not back. We haven't had a practice yet, things like that. So we had a problem in January with a lot of teams that were scheduled to play conference games, forfeited them because they literally just, from an administrative standpoint, couldn't get their stuff. It was a break. Get back on the court and play conference games. So one of the things I'm suggesting and interested in hearing comments on is, what if we put in the rules like you can't restart conference play till February 1st? What if we took January out of the equation? You could play non-conference games for time. You get back on campus, get their academic paperwork in order, drop guys from their roster if they want to, add guys to their roster if they want to. and do that. Basically take January out of the mix technically for any conference games to be played. Putting that on the ballot. Again, no comments? Again, the problems we were having were with teams, I think aggressively thinking, we're back in school, we can play, not really thinking about the prep work it took to get the guys back in, to get the administrative side of it going. I know we had problems with teams, coming back and finding out, saying they could play games when they get back and realize, we didn't submit the paperwork yet to travel that. We had to submit paperwork 2 weeks before we travel, and we didn't do it because we were on things like that. So I'm just looking for maybe something where we, prevent teams from accidentally, hurting themselves, hurting the organization, by biting off more than they can chew by playing conference games and scheduling conference games in January. Yeah, we have a question. Do we have any comments on this topic?
Marinelli, SNHU, she said, wouldn't it make it tough to squeeze in all the games in before spring break?
Well, I'm not sure if we'll make it tough. That's a valid question. You still got February. You've got, you have all of February, and you've got, not everybody's, spring break's not the entire month of March. It's certainly 2 weekends in March. But it's a valid point, and it sounds like, maybe the thing to do is just cautiously make teams cautious to avoid, to make sure that there's enough buffer from when they return to when they actually play conference games in January. Sounds like we don't have any support for this item. All right, we'll move. Conference scheduling. Once again, to reiterate, we play 3-game series, and I'll give you a backstory of why we've come to that 3-game series model. When we first started the league, the team said to us, Sandy, we're not a varsity basketball team. To go play we need to play more than one basketball game. To make it worthwhile for us. I completely agree. The reason the team settled on 3 games versus 2 games in a weekend was because they wanted that head-to-head tiebreaker. That, hey, we played 3 times, somebody's going to win the majority of those 3 games, and later in the season, when we lose in the postseason, that's an important tiebreaker to them. Who has the best, the head-to-head matchup in the best of 3 series. That's a definitely good thing about the 3-game series. The 3-game series idea is designed to be played as 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday, unless your opponent is your next door to play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night if you want. But whenever there's any decent travel involved, the idea is travel Saturday morning, play 2 Saturday afternoon games, get up Sunday morning, play another game, hit the road, go back to campus. Now, we have it put in the rules that, you can play 3 conference games in one day if both teams force to play 3 home games, but both sides say, yep, let's do a triple header on Saturday or whatnot. That's completely legal. We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of teams try to cram all 3 games into one day. To save travel money, they're trying to pinch pennies. They're afraid of the overnight hotel room idea. Seeing a problem with that is in a couple areas. One, 3 conference, remember, we're playing NCAA rules, stop clocks, so forth. 3 NCAA basketball length games in one day is a lot of basketball. You're talking about 7 to 8 hours of court time in one day. Play 2 of the games and then just forfeit the third. We don't want to see forfeits. We want people to be playing basketball. We're seeing sloppy basketball in game 3 because, frankly, people are dead tired by the 3rd game. We're also, this past year, we've seen an increase in, let's call it sports series. And having spoken to some administrators about this, they pointed out that, basketball is a contact sport. the whole game, the whole time. You are face to face with your opponent. Generally, you are face to face with the same opponent the whole game. It's guy man on man. You're bumping with the same guy. Player a little bit, and then you turn around, you play game 2, you're squared up with the same guy. You bump and grind a little bit more, your tempers get even heated. By the third game, we're seeing more and more incidences of some punches being thrown, which obviously we don't want. So maybe it would be better to go down to a 2-game series. There's certainly some cons to the 2-game series. For one, you're talking about cutting your conference games by 33%. We always tell teams on average you're playing, 15 to 18 conference games. And then, in my opinion, the biggest con to going to the 2-game series is the idea of, the tiebreaker. That head-to-head matchup thing might go out the window, where we get down to the last regular season, the end of the regular season. We're heading to regionals, and 2 are 11-1 in conference against each other. They split their head-to-head matchup. We might be down to, hey, how many points did you give up in your game against the third-place team in the conference to decide which one of them moves on and which one doesn't. So the tiebreaker, in my opinion, is an instrumental part of slipping down to the 2-game series. The benefits to it, no more 3 games in one day. I think it pretty much eliminates the need for any overnight travel, unless you can drive out, you can drive somewhere, you can play 2 games, you can drive back, or you stay the night overnight. It also creates the opportunity for 2 conference. To be able to play 2 conference series in the same weekend. Maybe you hit this team on Saturday for 2 games, and you go to this team on Sunday for 2 games. As well as, sometimes games need to be rescheduled. We've had some instances where, blizzards come through. Blizzards come through, roads become impassable, to nobody's fault. Team A can't physically get to Team B during the weekend that was scheduled. We now have to reschedule those games. If we've got 2-game series on the board, it's easier to say, okay, we're going to make that game up this weekend. So there are some pros to it. It's opened my eyes over the last few years. 3 years ago, I would have told you this was a terrible idea to go to the 2-game series. My eyes have been opened a little bit. I'm not sure which way I lean more than the other, but I think it's definitely worth bringing to light, warranted to put on the ballot. So interested in your comments, thoughts. I've been asked to do a little dance to entertain you while we wait for you guys to type in your comments. This moment, have a delicious drink of water. Have no fear, folks. I think I've only got 1 or 2 more issues after this. Small ones, not even voting issues, just comments. What you'd like to change. Comments? Harvard supports keeping it 3. All right, so it sounds like Harvard supports staying with the 3-game series. Does anybody support the idea of switching to 2-game series? That's we need somebody to say they support the 2-game series idea in order to put it on the ballot. If all we have is one team that supports the 3-game series, then we'll leave it as it is and move on. Harvard supports the current format. It sounds like nobody supports the idea of the switch to the 2-game series. So we will move on and won't be a ballot item. All right. Next item, non-conference games. I think, in my opinion, a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of teams will play like weekend tournaments. Somebody's having a tournament here, someone's having a tournament there, where it's a 4-team tournament or 12-team tournament. It seems like the most of what everybody does is invitational tournament related. Often those invitational tournaments, I believe, are operated with a running clock, which obviously is not within NCBBA rules. We play NCAA basketball clock rules, so playing a game with a running clock, the teams are NCBBA rules. Question is, but we're at the same time, unfortunately, we're missing out on the scores, the results of those matchups of those non-conference games, simply because they were played with non-conference or with running clock rules. So the question I pose is, should we keep our conference the same, where we play the NCAA clock rules, but for non-conference games, should we allow for non-conference games that are played with a running clock to be allowed to be counted as NCBBA non-conference games? That means they're being scheduled, things like that. I think that is, for one, from a appearance standpoint, people coming to our website, looking at our website, they're going to see teams, instead of every team playing 15 conference games, they're now going to see 15 conference games plus 8 non-conference games for every team. When the overall records to include a lot of more basketball games, for one. It's also going to help the voters, the poll makers, in that they're going to have a little bit more exposure to out-of-conference matches. You're going to be able to see that team in the non-conference game, and we can see who won those games. That might give us the idea that this team in this conference is better than this team in this conference because they played each other and that team won. We've talked in the past about these non-conference tournaments that people run with the running clock. I don't think that they're ever going to be able to switch to play NCAA rules because NCAA clock rules, it's not conducive to the format that people try to run these tournaments in, where they're trying to get 30 games in to crank them out, keep going. So does anybody support the idea of allowing non-conference games played with a running clock to be allowed to be counted in the NCBBA standings? That's the question on the table. Very interested in your comments. If anybody supports this idea, excuse me? Apologize for the delay. No one to blame but Mark Zuckerberg. I'm told our cable provider, our internet provider, is slow. I got the whole office cracking up. I'm here all night, folks.
What do they call it when they want to make sure they bleep people out?
Censor.
Since it's like the time delay, so make sure we miss it.
Yeah. In order to keep this a PG meeting, they put me on a 40-second, I guess. Which she probably just bleeped that out. All right, we're looking for comments on the idea, support or against the idea of putting on the ballot, allowing non-conference games played with a running clock to be counted. Again, remember, non-conference games, they don't affect your ability to qualify for the postseason. It's your conference record that determines if you get into the conference championship or not, the regional playoffs. The non-conference games are just kind of gravy. They would, having more non-conference games on your schedule would 25% of the seeding criteria that we use is how many total games the team has played, conference and non-conference combined. No comments? Nobody for or against it? We have opposition. Okay, so, all right. Right now, the idea of counting non-conference games played with a running clock. Okay, so we'll put that on the ballot. Thank you, Trey. All right. It's regarding our current uniform rules. Our uniform rules require that the jerseys, the shirt part, the upper body piece of the uniform, must match in both color and style, including decorations and trim. Now, for shorts, they only need to match in base color. It's required that teams carry away uniforms, but it's required that their shirts must match. Their uniform shirts, jerseys must be uniform with every player on the team. Shorts only need to be the base color. So let's say your team's navy blue. Everyone's got navy blue shorts on. Some are Nike, some are Adidas, some have a white stripe. Fine. Jersey. We've started to see some teams come out there looking sloppy with three, everybody, at least everybody's in the same color, but they're coming out there with three different, it looks like, they've got the 2014 club jersey, some got 2008. They don't match. It's starting, in those instances, it looks sloppy. It looks intramural, and that is a bad word in our neighborhood. This is not an IM basketball league. We don't run it like that. We don't want it to be like that. We're trying to build a legitimate college league for the club level. I want to make sure teams are aware that, in instances, it's in our rules that if you march five guys on the court and not all five are matched in the same jersey, the referee has the opportunity to tell that guy that doesn't match, you need to put on a matching uniform or he gets there's a warning in there. Not just eject him, but he's gonna, say something to him that, hey, this is you're doing a disrespect to your team in this league by not, adhering to the minimum uniform code. When we get to NCBBA Division II, which I would take an estimate right now that we I foresee, this is based on past history, looking at how the baseball league has grown and built and developed over the years. As we get to Division II, Division I standards will become higher. I would think that we'll probably get to a point where uniform policies will get higher stricter for those Division I. Maybe the trim and the decorations on the shorts must match as well. Maybe every team will need to have a home and away set of uniforms. So this is just a warning out to teams, just a reminder that there are a uniform code of minimum standards, and we expect you to adhere to it. It's nothing strict. And it doesn't 15 royal blue T-shirts that say, I don't know, somebody royal blue, Creighton on them, and numbers on the back. As long as they're all identical, you're fine. So, just bringing that to your attention. Officials. This is an interesting item that must be high school certified or higher. I'm going to emphasis on the or higher. The visiting team reserves the right to request proof of the official's credentials prior to the start of any game. This season, a team argued that a basketball official that has been trained to work college IM basketball through NERSA is actually more than the certification considered higher than high school, thus making them legal to work NCBBA games. Now, we've talked about this since the inception of the league, that the teams have said, we get it. We've talked about it. IM officials are cheap. They're $10, $15 a guy. You're looking at $55 a game. If you got a college-approved official, you might be $75 to $125 a game. We understand that the price issue versus IM officials versus high school officials. But what the teams have pointed out, and I certainly agree with, is the fact that every game has a meaning. a regional championship, a national championship. Every game matters. And do you want to go travel 4 hours, go to another college campus where you need to take 2 out of 3 games to get into the playoffs and have the opposing team's point guard's roommate ref the game? And in order for that doesn't happen, we need to have a minimum level of officials. So in this instance, it has been proposed that IM officials with a NERSA training are considered, in their opinion, better than high school officials. I would question whether those officials were trained in NCAA stop clock rules. Do they know how many timeouts are given in a NCAA basketball game? Do they know how long intermission should be for an NCAA basketball game? Do they know the substitute? These are things I think that might be lost in the training between a high school official, an IM official, and a college official. So the question I pose to you, I really don't have a big solution here. The question I pose to you out there is, how should we handle it? Loopholes been found? Do we deem college IM basketball officials trained through NERSA to be qualified to work our games? Or do we need to clean up our rule a little bit and simply say, should we require certified, NJCAA certified, or NAIA certified? Basically taking that or higher out of the rule wording and replacing it with these people, these refs to do our games need to have one of these classifications. Either one of the 3 major college, high school certifications. Very interested in your comments on this topic. Again, we're looking for clarification. How do we want to address this idea that intramural refs that have been trained by are qualified enough to work NCBBA games? Does anybody support the idea that they would be? Or do we like the idea that that an official must hold a high school certificate, an NCAA certificate, an NJCAA certificate, or an NAIA certificate in order to be eligible? Do we have any comments out there? There's a lot of you out there watching. We know that. Feel free to comment. Don't be nice. You don't want my opinions. Well, maybe you do. My opinion is I wouldn't want to spend the money, drive 4 hours for a game to end and have it potentially officiated by the buddy of someone on the opposing team. Thank you, Seth. Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead. Report that.
Seth Clark, VMI, high school reps at a minimum.
Right. Okay. We'll put on the ballot to change the wording to alleviate that loophole.
Kevin Bailey is not in favor of intramural level officials. So
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin just gave me the good news today that they've been approved as a club sport at their school. So he was the new addition to the verbal commitment list. Appreciate you chiming in, Kevin. All right. Do we have any more comments coming, or? All right. Improving communications. Just a comment here. Again, we need to get those scores into us faster. Include your player of the week. Even if you don't think you got a guy that's more deserving, pick the guy that had the best weekend. Put him on the list. Put him on the radar. Who knows? Maybe every game got rained out or snowed out, and his performance was the best of the week. Get him that moment in the spotlight. Give him that moment. I can't say my grandson won every week, and then you took him down. Well, that was last week your grandson won. I can't put him back up every week. So, but people are paying attention. They're proud of their kid winning player of the week. Guys ping each other and poke each other on Facebook with the hey, my guy just won. Congratulations, good job. Monday. And again, I get it, presidents. You've got a lot to do. You got a lot on your plate. Assign a freshman. Pick a freshman. His job. Hey, you're Secretary of League Communication. Sounds like a great title. You can put it on their resume when they're scores. Who should be the Player of the Week nominee, and get that in. Alumni. We need your alumni. This organization, in order to grow, needs more staff members, and we don't have the money to hire them. We need volunteers. The NCBB and the NCBA club baggers, because of the volunteers, we've got over 25 volunteers working within that league, and it's not it's not backbreaking work. It's not costly work. We just want a little bit of your time, a little of your help keeping people organization, a little bit of your hey, you guys graduate. Hey, here's a great way to stay involved. Come become a regional director, a conference or coordinator. Get on the voting ballot, on the voting panel, or maybe they want to take a weekend and come to the national championship and help us. We're looking for volunteers. As your current officers here, think about that when you move on. Your officers have already moved on. Think about them and contact them and say, hey, why don't you get involved with the league? Come help us make this thing great. All right. So we're going to open the floor to issues. I know.
Trey Anderson, Coppin State, will we be able to eliminate deadlines for roster elimination?
Why does he want to eliminate the roster deadline? It's important for us. There's a window there. You can up guys if they qualify for reasons to be removed from the roster. Again, the staff is very minimal. Over here, the people handling rosters, processing rosters, we got to be efficient, and that's the reason we have a late enough in January where teams are back from break. They know who hasn't returned from break, and now they can, they've got some opportunity there to, hey, if we've got up to 3 guys, or we've got 1, 2, or 3 guys to remove from set, get dropped off. One of the things we don't want to do is put it in a situation where teams are, the week before the national championship, we're going to drop these 3 guys and add 3 ringers onto the roster. We want to stay away from that. We need to be efficient with our time operationally here. I'm curious as to why you want to eliminate the end date of when you can drop a guy. Is it on the same line? Do we have a response from Trey yet?
No.
Does anybody out there support the idea of removing the roster? Well, we didn't. That wasn't approved to remove the January games. What is the other roster issue you've got there?
Both Seth Clark and, let's see, Tim Pugh would like to discuss a roster. Suggested 18.
Did they specify a reason why?
Negative.
Who's just out of curiosity? Who's Tim with?
Harvard.
Tim with Harvard. Okay. Tim, very curious as to for those of you not aware, it is a 15-man roster maximum. You can add players to your roster till you hit that 15-man max. You are only allowed to remove players during a 1-week window in late January. Can be removed for specific reasons, such as dropped out of school, graduated over winter break, GPA fell below the minimum standard, etc.
Tim Pugh responded, they get more funding from the school for having more players on a roster.
It's a number in mind?
Nothing that he wrote down. Hopefully he comes back with a number.
Well, we've got two people in favor of putting, a roster increase. We've got
Seth just wrote back, we're a small school, and I think it may help our
it will put on the ballot potential roster increase to 18. We'll see how the teams vote on it. Thank you. And thank you for the explanation as to why you're bringing that to the floor. Has anybody else out there chimed in, commented on his idea in support of it?
We have no support at this point, just his comment.
Okay. Looking for more suggestions of proposed rule changes.
College with regards to the national championship priorities. He was just asking if a potential priority list could be sent out to all the teams prior to the season starting. Like each team submit their priority
Redo
list.
the priority list. Now's the time to do it. Well, we would send that out with the ballot in 2 weeks. We're not going to wait till the season starts because we're gonna start looking at, we're gonna start looking at. Okay. Well, so there's an interest there in reshuffling. He's got an interest in shuffling the priority list. So what we can do is put on. Any more comments, questions? Moving back the drop deadline.
No secondary sport.
Proposed rule change issues. Well, I'm going to move on.
We've got nothing at the moment. I'll
Okay.
stop you if anything comes up.
Okay. Well, we will move on to our timetable. Is that the weeks will be due, which gives me about a week to get them all drafted up and out to you. Gives you guys a week to review, decide how you want to vote, and cast your ballots. June 1st is the renewal LPA deadline. That means teams that were in the league this past year, you have till June 1st to renew your membership at the next year. Get that paperwork in before you leave for summer break. Once you leave, it's a nightmare trying to get it done. You know, your president might be traveling abroad. Your club sports director might be on vacation. You know, and please take care of that before you leave for summer break. New teams, you've got to August 1st. Again, we've got the early registration period going through May 1st, so there's still time for you guys to take advantage of that. August 1st, we'll see teams. We already had a bunch of teams, so chances are New England's going to create a fourth conference, but it won't end up in New England. That fourth conference will end up in the North Atlantic to be the North Atlantic's third conference. So no worries up there, New England. Schedule request forms will be due September 15th. Conference schedules will be released. October 15th, that's when your team previews are due. As well, that's your little hype sheet, your questionnaire that we can use to hype your program going into the preseason, as well as your performance bonds are due for those two roles over the year. Invoice you in September for your performance bonds, so not to worry about that. October 31st, preseason polls will be released, and the regular season begins November 1st. Remember, academic eligibility letters and online player registrations wait till the day before. I can't tell you how many times people wait to the last minute and then find out that there is a problem. Some guy said, accidentally or not, clicks on a button and says they previously played professional basketball, makes them ineligible. Corrected. When it happens Saturday morning before your game, he's not going to be eligible for those games. December 31st is the deadline for the annual dues discount period. Remember, if you pay your dues by the end of December, you get $100 off. So save your team $100. Call it a fundraiser. The regular season concludes, as well as the regional championship tournaments, and then we're looking at early April, possibly late April, early April, possibly mid-April for the national championship tournament. So that's it for the timeline. Any more comments over there to go over yet? Okay. Last stop. Really appreciate you taking the time to tune in. I know it's getting late here on the East Coast. It's dinner time on the West Coast. So the benefits of being a national organization is we got lots of timetables to deal with. Continue to promote the league in the follow us on Twitter. Create your own Twitter team accounts. Make sure you're linked up with us there. We love it. Hey, I'm going to give a shout out right now. Coastal Carolina men's club basketball team. I'm going to call them the best Twitter account out there. Keep doing. And sponsors, remember, give them business. Get a quote. You guys need uniforms. At least get a quote from Phenom Elite. See what they have to offer. You're going to be excited about it. If you decide not to go with it, no, that's your prerogative. But I think you're going to be pleased with what you see there. Remember, other than helping money, keep the costs down. Communication. Whenever an issue arrives, notify us. If you feel like you're not being treated fairly, you feel like something's awry, possibly is. Bring it to our attention. That's our job. We're the big brother. We're the one that oversees everybody. Questions. Don't let questions go unanswered. If you think you know something but you're not 100% sure, ask. We want to be here to help you. So keep those lines of communication open. Be prompt with the deadlines, especially that schedule request form, and looking for a big improvement on getting game on. Why we do this. It's why you do this. It's a sport you love. You're passionate about it. You're putting in this time and dedication for your opportunity to play at this level. Enjoy yourself. Leave the court with a smile on your face. You're going to make the best friend. We'll see you on the court.